My boyfriend and I recently moved into what felt like our dream home. Small, cozy, quiet, exactly what we wanted. We brought our rescue cat, Luna, with us, and the first few days honestly felt perfect. There was only one problem: the house next door. It looked abandoned, half renovated, but left to rot. The previous owner had torn out the fence that divided the 2 yards, but never replaced it, so both properties bled into each other, with nothing separating them. Behind that house was another home, with a handful of young guys living there, and sometimes, when we pulled into our driveway, we'd see them cutting across the abandoned property like it was their shortcut. At first, we thought nothing of it. Maybe they knew the owner, maybe they had permission. That changed the first night we sat outside in our garden. We were stargazing when I noticed a face in the window of the abandoned house. A man, standing still, staring directly at us. He didn't look away. No expression, no attempt to hide, just watching from a darkened room. I tried to brush it off. Maybe he was just curious about new neighbors, but after 30 minutes of that blank stare, we went inside. The next few days were normal. I went to work, my boyfriend kept unpacking. But one night, while we were out in the yard again, we heard something. The sound of the wooden boards from the broken fence being dragged aside. 3 men stepped into our garden, like they owned the place. The youngest one, maybe in his late 20s, held a duffel bag. He asked if we wanted to buy dishwashing tablets, obviously stolen. We awkwardly declined. He smiled like it was some kind of inside joke. Then they all left. What unsettled me most wasn't the offer. It was how casually they entered our garden, like it wasn't ours, like they were testing us. From then on, it escalated. We'd catch them cutting through constantly, peering into our yard, lifting the fence panel to slip into the abandoned house. I started to wonder if we were being singled out because we were young, easy targets. One afternoon, while I was cleaning the living room, 2 police officers suddenly came around the side of our property. They stepped into the abandoned yard, lifted the fence panel, poked around for a few minutes, then left without a word. I thought it was strange, but let it go. A few days later, they returned, this time knocking on our door. They told us the guys next door had officially been evicted. Apparently, we weren't the only ones they'd harassed. We felt relief. At least now they couldn't escalate things further. But relief doesn't last long in stories like this. One evening, I was in the bath when I heard a loud bang outside. I threw on clothes and found my boyfriend at the spare bedroom window, recording something on his phone. "What's going on?" I asked. He pointed. A man we had never seen before was standing in the abandoned garden, staring up at our house. When he noticed us watching, he sprinted toward our back door. He grabbed the handle, rattled it violently, then bolted back into the abandoned yard. We called the police. They came, took the video, made a report, and left. But I couldn't stop asking myself, what was he planning if the door had been unlocked? A few nights later, at 2 a.m., we heard whistling outside, the kind of low, taunting whistle men use to get under your skin. Then, tapping on our bedroom window. We checked the cameras, but there was nothing recorded. Whoever it was knew exactly how to avoid being seen. The next morning, we found our video doorbell sitting on the ground. The SD card was gone. Someone had removed it carefully, deliberately. The officer on the phone told us to keep doors and windows locked. She admitted that taking the camera might mean they were planning something worse. That thought chilled me more than anything else. The harassment continued for weeks. Knocks on windows, the whistling, faint noises outside our room. And then one night, while checking the live feed on our indoor camera, we saw him. A man stood in our garden wearing a mask, hood pulled up, arms spread wide as if mocking us, like a twisted statue, his head tilted, staring straight at our window. We froze, too stunned to even record. He stood there for what felt like forever, before walking across the street and just waiting, watching. The police said it wasn't illegal to stare at someone's house, that we were overreacting. Even when we told them about the mask, the bizarre behavior, they brushed it off. We stopped sleeping. Every sound outside set us off. And then, a few nights later, at almost 3 a.m., we got another alert. 2 masked men, flashlights in their hands. One of them carried what looked like a crowbar. They circled our house slowly, shining their beams into every window. We never understood why us, why our house. But even now, we still see him, standing across the street in broad daylight sometimes, pointing, waving, staring at our window with that same blank expression. We have more cameras now. We record everything. But the truth is, we don't feel safe here anymore. And no matter how many reports we make, it never seems to matter, because he always comes back. I need to start by saying this. I'm not losing my mind. I know what I'm about to tell you is going to sound paranoid, maybe even delusional, but I swear on my life, it all happened exactly like this. It started with a word, or more accurately, a nickname that belonged only to one person. 3 months ago, I finally ended things with my ex, Marcus. We'd been together almost 2 years, and it should have ended long before that. Marcus wasn't the type to scream or throw punches, but he was a different kind of dangerous, the kind who studied you, tested you, and quietly pulled the strings. He tracked when I was online, asked me the same questions over and over to catch me in inconsistencies. Every day with him felt like being interrogated without warning. So when I left clean. New number, deleted socials, moved to a new apartment across the city. For the first time in years, I could breathe, or so I thought. It happened first at a diner down the street from my new place. I sat at the counter, ordered a sandwich. The waitress, a girl my age, smiled at me and said, "Afternoon, little bird." The plate in my hands nearly slipped. That was Marcus's thing, his nickname for me. He'd always say it mockingly. "What's the matter, little bird? Lost your wings?" Especially when I cried. Hearing it from her, so casually, made my skin crawl. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe she called everyone that. But then, it happened again. A few nights later, I took the tram home from work. The car was nearly empty, except for an older man across the aisle. Halfway through the ride, he leaned over slightly and said, "Ever figure out what you're running from, little bird?" I felt my heart seize up, word for word. Marcus had said that to me once when I told him I needed space. Now it wasn't just a diner waitress. It was a stranger on a train. And then it spiraled. At the pharmacy, a woman brushed by me and whispered, "You don't get to vanish." Walking into my building one night, a man carrying groceries muttered, "Still keeping your hair the same." Even the janitor in the lobby, someone I'd barely spoken to, started humming a song under his breath and said, "You always liked this one." It was the same track Marcus used to blast during arguments. It wasn't just the words, it was their eyes. The way they looked at me, not like I was a stranger, but like they recognized me, like they all shared the same thought. I thought I was losing my mind. Finally, in desperation, I messaged Marcus's sister. I begged her to tell him to stop, whatever sick game he was playing. She replied the next day, "Marcus has been in a residential program for 6 weeks. No phone, no internet." I didn't believe her, until she posted a photo of him on social media, pale, thinner, holding a sobriety coin in his hand. So it wasn't him, not directly, but someone, somewhere, was feeding people his words. One night, I worked late, not wanting to be home alone. By the time I finally headed back, the streets were empty. I walked fast, headphones in, but no music playing, an old trick to hear footsteps behind me. When I turned the corner near my apartment, I saw someone sitting on a low wall, hoodie up, face tilted down. I might have ignored him until he spoke. "Cold night, little bird." He never even looked at me, just set it to the ground, as if the sidewalk itself was listening. I walked past, without a word, locked every bolt on my door, and sat awake until the sun came up. The next morning, I found my welcome mat flipped upside down. On the underside, scrawled in jagged pen, were the words, "You can change your skin, but I'll still find you, little bird." I nearly vomited right there in the hall. That weekend, I ran. Checked into a budget hotel across town. Didn't even pack. I just wanted distance. The first night was quiet. The second wasn't. At 2 a.m., 3 slow knocks hit my door. I froze. Then again, 3 knocks. I crept to the peephole. A woman in her 40s stood there. Her face was blank, emotionless. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at the door like she was waiting for it to open. She stood there so long, I thought I might faint. Then she walked away. The next morning, I asked the clerk at the front desk if anyone had been up to my floor. He shook his head, said all the other rooms up there were empty. That's when I realized these weren't coincidences. These weren't random people. Someone was sending them, feeding them Marcus's words, his habits, his ways of breaking me down. I remembered something he'd once bragged about, a group he was part of online. He claimed it was about self-discipline and mental toughness. But now I can't help but wonder if it was something else, a network, a cult, a place where he could broadcast me like a project and let others take part. I don't know if he paid them, or if they volunteered, but whoever they weren't just following me. They were becoming him. I've moved again, dyed my hair, cut off anyone who might connect me to my past. For a while, it seemed to work. Until last week, I was walking home from a late dinner. As I passed a stranger on the sidewalk, she whispered without breaking stride, "Still hiding behind shadows, little bird." She didn't look at me. She didn't stop. She just kept walking. And that's when I knew this won't stop. Because this isn't about watching me. It's about making sure I never stop watching for him. And it's working, because I can't trust anyone's face anymore. My family is usually homebodies. Vacations are not our thing, so everyone was shocked when my aunt suggested a trip to one of the Great Lakes in Wisconsin. We decided to go, hoping to make new memories together. My cousin booked a large cabin that could fit all 18 of us, a real bargain considering its size. The cabin sat right on the lake, with water stretching so far it almost looked like an ocean. Most of us took rooms in the main cabin, but because of the size of our group, a few of us, my 3 cousins and I, were placed in a separate building behind the main cabin. It was an old 2-story garage converted into bedrooms. At first, we didn't think much of it. We spent the day swimming, sitting by the fire pit, and exploring the shoreline. But nightfall changed everything. The garage was outdated and neglected. Moldy carpet, stained sheets, and a rickety door that barely latched made it feel unsafe. My cousins refused to sleep in the beds unless we washed the sheets, so I suggested doing laundry. The machines were tiny, allowing only one set of bedding at a time, so we knew it would take hours. We stayed upstairs, waiting for the first load to finish. As my cousin Lena complained about being stuck in the worst room in the world, I felt it, a sudden, creeping unease. This wasn't just nervousness. I felt it before, that rare sense that something bad is about to happen. I warned my cousins to stay alert, and they listened, remembering the time our house in Chicago was broken into. Around midnight, the laundry bell rang. I went down alone, moved the sheets to the dryer, and brought them back upstairs. When my cousins saw how clean they were, They wanted their sheets done, too. I kept moving up and down, doing load after load. Finally, around 2:37 a.m., we were finished. Exhausted, we made the beds and tried to sleep. My cousin Nina insisted we leave the lights on. She fell asleep quickly, but I stayed up doing some work on my phone. Being a light sleeper has been ingrained in me ever since the break-in, and I remained hyper-aware of every sound. Then, at 3 a.m., a loud crash shook the garage door, like someone slammed their body against it. I sat straight up, heart racing. My cousins didn't stir. I told myself it was the wind, but it was far too heavy. Minutes later, the second crash came, louder this time, rattling the whole building. By the third crash, 20 minutes later, two of my cousins woke up. I asked if they'd heard it. They had. Nina suggested we text our aunt. It was 4:11 a.m. when she replied, realizing something was seriously wrong. She woke my uncle, who ran outside to investigate while we stayed upstairs, frozen in fear. Finally, there was knocking. Our uncle appeared at the door with my dad and a few older cousins. "There's someone on the property," he said. My stomach dropped. We grabbed our things and ran to the main cabin. The rest of the family woke from the commotion. We told them everything: the loud crashes, the shaking, the unease. My aunt explained that when my uncle went outside, she followed. He had shouted at someone standing behind the garage, and at that moment, the main cabin door slammed shut on its own. Fearing someone had gotten inside, she woke the others. After checking, they found no one. Then my uncle described what he saw: a man standing still, staring as if daring him to see him. When my uncle called out, the man didn't flinch. He simply walked away and disappeared into thin air. No footsteps, no rustling leaves, nothing. My uncle is a serious, logical man who doesn't tell tall tales, which made it even scarier. Later, we found two playing cards, one in the main cabin and one in the garage. The one in the garage was twisted and demonic looking. One cousin mentioned that gestures symbolize mockery, and the loud crashes had happened around 3 a.m., the so-called devil's hour. It felt like someone, or something, was taunting us. We didn't use the garage again. We squeezed into the main cabin, sleeping anywhere there was room. That night, my mom woke at 4 a.m. to footsteps on the porch and someone rattling the basement door where my brothers were sleeping. She ran to check, but no one was there. We left a day early, unable to shake the terror. On the way home, we speculated about what happened. Some thought it could have been a neighbor trying to scare us off. Others suspected something paranormal, especially after the strange cards and the man disappearing into thin air. Our Airbnb host claimed she would check the security cameras, but we never heard back. When we arrived, my sister and cousin had passed by a neighbor who gave them a cold, unfriendly stare. Perhaps it was just coincidence, but the whole trip had felt wrong from the start. Despite everything, we were determined to have more family trips in the future, but none would ever be quite as peaceful again.